Hey, hello. Sorry for being late. I kind of woke up late. I hope this is working. As usual, I'm just going to just check if it's working. Yeah, but today, right, we have another 10 poems. Uh, yeah, and we'll be moving on to this new genre. I mean, new to us called the five character regulated verse. Yeah. So yeah, that one is quite interesting. There's a lot of them. So if you see like where is it? Here. So there's what? Oh, there's like 80. Yeah, like 80 poems in this genre. So we'll be doing this for like 2 months. Yeah, but these are all pretty interesting. These are called regular or regulated verse, where there's the rhythm is quite strictly, there are very strict rules for rhythm. Yeah, so we'll talk about that when the time comes. Then for now, why don't we continue with this? So if you remember, right, actually this was part of a three-part poem. So we read the first two parts last week. And so why don't we just briefly look at that and then we can continue with today's one. Okay. So oh, okay, you're right. This is the first one, right? Uh okay, I'll just read the English version to get us back up to speed. So this one we read last week, and it goes, uh, pure wine costs for the golden cup 10,000 coppers a flagon, and a jade plate of dainty food calls for 1,000,000 coins. I fling aside my food, sticks, and cup. I cannot eat nor drink. I pull out my dagger. I peer four ways in vain. I would cross the yellow river, but ice chokes the ferry. I would climb the Taihang mountain, but the sky is blind with snow. I would sit and poise a fishing pole, lazy by a brook, but I suddenly dream of riding a boat, sailing for the sun. Journeying is hard, journeying is hard. There are many turnings, which am I to follow? I will mount a long wind some day and break the heavy waves and set my cloudy sail straight and bridge the deep, deep sea. Okay, so we discussed last week this is part of his dissatisfaction at court because he just wasn't very popular and people were uh like there were other officials who didn't like him and he wasn't like the emperor didn't really like him as well. So that's and I think it's more explicit in this second poem. Yeah. The way is broad like the blue sky, but no way out before my eye. I'm ashamed to follow those who have no guts, gambling on fighting cocks and dogs for pears and nuts. Feng would go homeward way, having no fish to eat. Zhou did not think to bow to nobleman was meat. General Han was mocked in the marketplace. The brilliant scholar Jia was banished in disgrace. Have you not heard of King of Yin in days gone by, who venerated talents and built terrace high, on which he offered gold to gifted men and stooped low and swept the floor to welcome them? Grateful, Zhu Xin and Yue Yi came then and served him heart and soul, both full of stratagem. The king's bones were now buried. Who would sweep the floor of the gold terrace anymore? Hard is the way, go back without delay. So here he starts saying like, in the past, people knew how to treat talented men well. An emperor used to be, some of them even like, yeah, even bowed down to the talented officials and like swept the floor with his sleeve. So he's like, wow, those were the days. Okay, so that's sort of the setting. And now we can look at the third poem. Oh, okay. And uh, we have here number 3, and I guess I should just read it lah. So 行路难, 之三, hard is the way of the world. 3, 有耳莫喜银川水，有口莫食首阳 绝，寒光混世贵无名，何用孤高比云月？物官自古贤达人，功成不退皆损身，皆陨身。子婿祭器无江上，屈原中头将湘水滨。陆机雄才岂自保？李斯睡驾苦不早。华亭鹤唳俱可闻。上蔡苍鹰何足道？君不见吴中张翰称达生。秋风突兀江东行。且乐生前一杯酒，何须身后千载名。Don't wash your ears on hearing something you dislike, nor die of hunger like famous hermits on the pike. Living without a fame, among the motley crowd, why should one be as lofty as the moon or the cloud? Of ancient talents who failed to retire, there's none, but came to tragic ending after glory's won. The head of General Wu was hung over City Gate. In the river was drowned the poet laureate. The highly talented scholar wished in vain to preserve his life to hear the cry of the crane. Minister Li regretted not to have retired to hunt with falcon gray as he had long desired. Have you not heard of Zhang Han, who resigned carefree to go home to eat his perch with high glee? Enjoy a cup of wine while you're alive. Do not care if your fame will not survive. I mean, this seems pretty obvious, right? The meaning is like, you know, it's okay to not have a job, I guess. It's okay to not have a lot of accomplishments, and maybe it's more important to enjoy life, right? So more of a, I think this is a very common thing to say. It's a very thing for like Chinese scholars to say once they've lost their job. It's if they're doing well, they're like, oh, if they're doing well, they're like, oh, what's important is to serve the country. But if they're not doing well, they're like, well, serving the country is not as important as enjoying your life. But it's good lah. It's good lah. So I think it's a good coping mechanism, and it has some. I mean, does have some truth to it, right? Yeah. So here, I think it's quite worth looking at the specific historical references. Yeah, because they aren't all translated in the English, and I spotted quite a few like interesting ones in the Chinese. So let's look at this. Okay, so the first one, let's look at the first two lines. All right, don't wash your ears on hearing something you dislike, nor die of hunger like famous hermits on the pike. So the famous hermits here are really quite famous. They're Bo Yi and Shu Qi. So these are two brothers who are supposed to be very morally pure, but maybe too pure. So some people sort of disagree. Some see them as like admirable, but others see them as misguided. So the story is when there's this corrupt dynasty, right? So the Shang dynasty, and then so these two, I think they were related to the Shang dynasty. I forgot in what way. Maybe they were officials for the they were princes of the Shang dynasty. Yeah. Was that right? No, this is okay, or just some noble, some aristocrat. But they were technically under the Shang dynasty, which was quite corrupt. But these two were quite virtuous people, actually. But yeah, but then anyway, because it was corrupt, this new dynasty, this new emperor sort of like took over, and the new emperor was quite good, but out of principle, these two, they said, you know what, no matter how good he is, he still overthrew our emperor. So we refuse to like eat anything that was that's under the control of this new guy. And so they just went to the mountains and then they ate grass and then they just died. Yeah. So that's sort of that's kind of the story. And I think here Li Bai is trying to say that, you know, that's a bit much. Like you don't need to go to that extent. And yeah, and I mean, it's not realistic for most people, right? So these are like these people are famous because they are going to such extremes. Yeah. They also do this weird thing. It's like the brother, they're supposed to inherit some position, and so they're two brothers, right? And their father is like, oh, I prefer the younger brother, but the older brother by right should get the title. Then the older brother knows this, so he leaves so it's easier, right? So the father can just give the title to the younger brother. So the older brother leaves, and to like make things easy. And then the younger brother says, oh, this is not right. So he leaves also. So then it's like, okay, great, you're both very upright, but you're kind of screwed over the succession plan now. Yeah, so interesting characters. Yeah. So this is what Li Bai is using as a negative example. Like, I don't want to be like these guys, right? And then next is 子序, in line, this is line what? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so General Wu is Wu Zixu. So Zixu, Wu Zixu. So this is another historical figure. So these are both from like long ago. Like, so this one, the first two, the hermits, there should be like what, 800-900 BC. And then this Zixu is about, I don't know, like 400 BC. Yeah, but very long ago, because it's written in like what, 500s, right? AD, this poem. All right, then what's the story of this? It says, so is this general? And so he was working for this king, and the king heard that the general doesn't like him. So he asked someone to give to send him this sword. And then the general, I guess he sort of knew the hidden meaning, then he just like jumped on the sword and died. So yeah, that's not great. And yeah, the head of General Wu was hung over the city gate. Now, so this is I can see why, because he's trying to make it all rhyme. So what it is in the Chinese, it says, so his corpse was eventually abandoned in the river Wu. So yeah, not a great thing. And similarly, this next person also, right? Chu Yuan was also had a similar fate lah. So this is another super famous guy. I guess he's so famous they didn't even putting the note here, but Chu Yuan, he's this super famous poet. Just you know, let me just Google the story. But he how do you describe it? He Okay, let's just talk about the. All right, this guy, right? So he was born in Chu, so also in the BCs. So I guess here's 300 BC. And he's a really good poet and apparently a politician as well. And yeah, but he was killed, I think, for some reason. Okay, so he was exiled to many places, and okay, and because he was so just depressed about bad governance because he cared so much about his country, right? He sort of like he just like committed suicide by jumping into the river. And this is a painting of that. Okay, so I guess he's hugging the rock and he just like went in. Yeah, yeah. Uh, but then because everyone loved him so much, right? They didn't want the fishes to eat his corpse, so they made like these little rice dumplings and they threw it in the river so the fish won't eat his corpse. And that's the story of the origin of 端午节. Can't remember what it's called in English. But yeah, 端午节, and that's like a really still a big festival today. So, right. Let's see what this is called in English. Yeah, so he's picking like really famous figures here. And oh, Dragon Boat Festival. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's another famous guy. So again, the point he's saying is, well, all these people who are really famous, really talented, and then they failed to retire. They all came to tragic endings, right? Okay. This feels like this is just like story time. But okay, let's go through the main people. Then next one, the highly talented scholar. So this should be Lu Ji Xiong. Is that right? Lu Ji. Okay, I never heard of this guy, but apparently it's a bit later in Xijin. I guess it has to be like after year 200, maybe 300s, 400s. And he's a scholar. He does works on literature, and he was just falsely accused and he was killed. Yeah. And then next, Li Si. So this is Minister Li. So this guy is also super famous. He was he helped, if you remember the first empire of Qin. So this is the first um time that China was united, right, in a single under a single ruler. Well, that's not true. I mean, there are, oh, but he's called the first emperor, lah. Right, he was the first emperor to really he unified the seven warring states into one, and Li Si was one of the big contributors to that. He was the prime minister where he uh implemented really strict laws, but it also helped make the government more efficient and made it more competitive against the other states. Yeah, but then in the end he was also killed. I think the story was quite funny actually. He had this law saying like oh, if you can't help criminals, you can't, because if you're found to help any criminals you will die, that we will execute you. And then eventually he became a but then eventually the other people disliked his influence, so they charged him with some crime and he was escaping, but then no one was willing to help him because they were afraid of the own law that he set against helping criminals. So yeah, uh, but he's an influential, very influential person now. I think people are like on the fence on whether he's a good person or not. But yeah, so that's him. And then how many more are there? And finally, I think it's just Zhang Han is the last one. Zhang Han. So yeah, okay. They didn't write it here. Ah, here. Okay, Zhang Han. He's a okay, he was just an official. Oh no, this is a positive example. Okay. So Zhang Han, he was an official, but he saw that the spring wind came and he missed his home's vegetables and like food and stuff. And then he said, hey man, life is precious. Why am I being an official so far from home just for a title? And then he quit and he went home. So that's the vibe. So he's like, why don't we just do that? And then enjoy your cup of wine while you're alive. Do not care if your fame will not survive. I think it's pretty good advice, honestly. Like, especially if I mean his fame did survive, right? Just as a poet rather than a official. But yeah, not everyone or like, I think everyone finds different things meaningful. And I think there is a lot of value in a life where you just try to appreciate the simple things. Yeah. So okay. Sorry, this didn't have a lot of analysis because it's all like historical allusions. I'll see what comments you may have. Oh wow. It's already 9:30. Okay, oh, Danica asks, their effort didn't amount to the change they wanted to see. Is that it? Well, at least for Li Si, right? He was exceptionally successful. So I'm not sure about the rest. But I think his point is that even if you are successful, even if you achieve what you set out to accomplish, a lot of the time you will still personally meet a bad fate. Yeah. So yeah, it's almost like you've achieved your goals, but at what cost? I think that's also the dimension to that. But I think for other people, they just didn't succeed at all. I mean, they're all very well remembered, right? So they have succeeded in some ways. Like I'm sure this General Wu guy, he won like a lot of great battles, but the result is that he was disliked by the emperor or disliked by the king, which led to his own death. So yeah, it's kind of, I think it's like almost like regardless, or maybe it's because they were so successful that they didn't meet a good fate. Yeah. Okay. And then we go to some famous critics. I realized we spent quite a while. I always spend half an hour on the first poem. I don't know why. But okay. I guess it's like my warm up. Okay, this was not helpful. This comment is literally the point of the poem. So I meant this comment on the Wikipedia, Chinese Wikipedia. Yeah. So I guess that's kind of it for this poem. If you have more comments, just send it in. And yeah, if not, I can just maybe I'll move on to the next one. So next we have another Li Bai poem, Bringing in the Wine, called 将进酒. So, all right, so let's just try reading this. 君不见黄河之水天上来，奔流到海不复回。君不见高堂明镜悲白发，朝如青丝暮成雪。人生得意须尽欢，莫使金樽空对月。天生我材必有用，千金散尽还复来。烹羊宰牛且为乐，会须一饮300杯。岑夫子，丹丘生，将进酒，君莫停。 与君歌一曲，请君为我侧耳听。钟鼓馔日不足贵，但愿长醉不愿醒。古来圣贤皆寂寞，惟有饮者留其名。陈王昔时宴平乐，斗酒十千恣欢谑。主人何为言少钱？径须沽取对君酌。五花马，千金裘。呼儿将出换美酒，与尔同销万苦愁。See how the yellow river's waters move out of heaven, entering the ocean never to return. See how lovely locks and bright mirrors in high chambers, though silken black at morning, have changed by night to snow. Oh, let a man of spirit venture where he pleases, and never tip his golden cup empty toward the moon. Since heaven give the talent, let it be employed. Spin 1,000 pieces of silver, all of them come back. Cook a sheep, kill a cow, whet the appetite, and make me, of 300 bowls, one long drink. To the old master Tang and the young scholar Dan Qiu, bring in the wine. Let your cups never rest, let me sing you a song. Let your ears attend. What are bell and drums, rare dishes and treasure? Let me be forever drunk and never come to reason. Sober men of olden days and sages are forgotten, and only the great drinkers are famous for all time. Prince Chen paid at a banquet in the Palace of Perfection 10,000 coins for a cask of wine, with many a laugh and quip. Why say, my host, that your money is gone? Go and buy wine, and we'll drink it together. My flower-dappled horse, my furs worth 1,000, hand them to the boy to exchange for good wine, and will drown away the woes of 10,000 generations. Okay, so it's like the idea is to bring in wine. I get that. Okay, let's look at the context for this. But I know this is a famous poem because there's a famous line here, which is like 天生我材必有用. So it's like if heaven created a talent such as this, it must have had a purpose. Yeah. So yeah, pretty cool. Let's see what is going on. Right, because there's more here. I feel like there's more here than just drinking and the. Okay, I think we need to unpack this, but let's look at the context, if any. Okay, so this might be after he left the capital. So after the events of the last poem, right? Where he's like, I'm done with this. And then he's just hanging out with some of his friends. So like 3 people drinking. So I think that's why he named the 2 people, this Chen and Dan Qiu, Mr. Chen and student Dan Qiu. Yeah, so yeah, I guess he's literally just hanging out there. Then let's look at the poem itself. Okay. So see how the yellow river's waters move out of heaven, entering the ocean never to return. Huh. Danica says, embrace drunkenness, basically. Low key, right? Yeah. Let's see. The Wikipedia makes it sound very profound. So let's see what this says. It says, the poet is like drinking in order to distract himself from his sorrows, and in this poem he expresses the just his frustration towards life, and there's disappointment, confidence, anger, and struggle. So it sounds like a lot is going on, which I didn't pick up. So I guess let's read a bit closer first to see if this is fair. Okay, so see how the yellow river's waters move out of heaven, entering the ocean, never to return. Okay. See how lovely locks and bright mirrors in high chambers, those silken black at morning, have changed by night to snow. So this part is about how things are very transitory, right? And impermanent. Okay. So, oh, let a man of spirit venture where he pleases, and never tip his golden cup empty toward the moon. Okay. Okay, so she's like, I'll do what I want and always be drinking. And since heaven gave the talent, let it be employed. Spin 1,000 pieces of silver, all of them come back. I don't know, man. I feel like actually this is not a good translation, even just reading to this part. Let me look at maybe I translated myself. Yeah. Okay, let's just check it with here. Okay, so all right, let's continue from there. It's pretty decent. So heaven has so heaven, if he has given us this talent, he'll surely have use for us. And even if we use up all our gold, we must be able to get it again. Okay, so this is sort of like sort of like YOLO, right? Just have trust and faith and like live in the moment. Don't worry too much. And then if you cook, that's kind of decent. So if you cook a sheep, kill a cow, and you just for food, right? And then just enjoy the vibe. And then even if you drink 300 cups at once, don't worry that it's too much. Then it's like, oh, my friend. So it's like, oh, so his drinking buddies here, right? Oh, Mr. Tan, oh, student Dan Chiu, drink, don't stop. So I sing for all of my friends here. Please listen carefully. So there such delicacies as this. Such delicacies as this are not rare. I wish to remain drunk and forever and not to be sober. So I think here, not to be sober is sort of like a hint that he doesn't really want to face reality, right? And I mean the previous part where it's like, I'm sure things will work out. Doesn't sound very convincing, does it? But he's trying to convince himself, yeah. Right. And then next one, the ancient sages from old are without renown. So only big drinkers are remembered. Yeah, sober men of olden days and sages are forgotten, and only the great drinkers are famous for all time. Pretty sure that's not true, but well, maybe. And Confucius was described as like never. It's like he can always drink but never get drunk. So maybe he's right. Okay, and then so back in the day, the Cao Zhi is some prince, some poet. He set up a banquet, and then so with his poet friends and then 1 gallon maybe, so just his 10,000 a cask of wine for 10,000 coins. Okay, it's for them to enjoy themselves. So you, the host, why do you say that you do not have enough money? Just keep on bringing wine for us to drink together. And then yeah, this one is pretty decent. So my flower dappled horse, my first worth 1,000, hand them to the boy to exchange for a good wine, and will drown away the woes of 10,000 generations. Okay. Okay, I hope my translation sort of makes this part more clear. Yeah. So I think this is interesting because there is a genre of drinking song, and this is sort of trying to be part of that, but it's also not as simple as just that, right? Like, yeah, I think especially this line, uh, it's so annoying because this is such an important line, but that's not very. I don't think this is translated well, but it's like, yeah, since heaven gave the talent, I'm sure it will be employed. So it's like, well, not really let it be, right? It's like a hope that it will be, yeah. And then yeah. But he also says it must be. This be necessarily it will be used. But I think he's speaking more strongly than what he actually thinks are. But he's trying to convince himself. Yeah. And I feel like there's a self-destructive streak in this poem. He sort of like lost his purpose and he says things that seem very implausible, right? Like, sober men of olden days and sages are forgotten, and only the great drinkers are famous for all time. So I think this is actually a very interesting psychological study of the poet. Yeah, it reveals a lot, and I'm sure he knows that. So yeah, yeah, like even his all his precious possessions. I mean, the fact that he has these means that he used to value them, right? But then now he's like, screw it, let's just all change it for wine, and we'll drink away the sorrows, right? Drown away the woes. Yeah. So he's pretending to be happy, but you can tell he's not really very happy. Yeah. Danica says he gave up reality because it was too disappointing. F. Yeah, press F to pay respects. Yeah, low key. F. Yeah. I like this. Really good one. Really good poem. Yeah, I think definitely better than other poems where they're just like, drink, drink, drink. Like that's, I don't know, not really that interesting. Yeah. This is okay. So if we look at some famous critics now, I don't really like this. This is weird. He's like, okay, so the poet is like singing madly, but within it there is in fact a very profound idea. I don't think it's very profound there. I think he's just lashing out. Yeah, so but yeah, but this guy concludes that's why this is not just like wild words. But I do think it is wild words. And that's the point. Yeah. And then this is a setup, right? It says it's because he has great talent, but it's not he has great talent, but it is not put to good use. And that's why he sort of entrusts himself to the alcohol and in order to for release. Yeah, for release. It's literally how it'll be. Yeah. And yeah, I think that's about it for the poem. Not sure if I done it much justice, but it's really famous, especially this line. Yeah. The line, yeah. Since heaven gave the talent, it must be employed. Yeah. Okay. So then we can move on to the next one. So this by a different poet, Du Fu, so Li Bai's friend, right? And so the Du Fu and Li Bai are like the two most famous ones. So A Song of War Chariots, 兵车行. So 车辚辚，马萧萧，行人弓箭各在腰。耶儿娘妻子走相送，尘埃不见咸阳桥。牵衣顿足，拦道哭，哭声直上干云霄。道旁过着问行人，行人但云点行平。或从15北返河，便至40西营田。是时李正与李头，归来头白还戍边。边庭流雪成海水，五皇开边意未已。君不闻汉家山东200州，千村万落生荆起。从有见父把锄犁，何生陇亩无东西。况复秦兵耐苦战，被驱不易全与举击。长者虽有问，一夫感生恨。且如今年冬，未休关西卒。县官急所租税从何出？幸之生男恶，反是生女好。生女犹得嫁比邻，生男埋没随百草。君不见青海头，古来白骨莫无人收。新鬼烦冤旧骨为哭，天阴雨湿生秋秋。The war chariots rattle, the war horses whinny. Each man of you has a bow and quiver at his belt. Father, mother, son, wife, stare at you going, till dust shall have buried the bridge beyond Chang'an. They run with you, crying, they tug at your sleeves, and the sound of their sorrows go up to the clouds. And every time a bystander asks you a question, you can only say to him that you have to go. We remember others at 15 sent north to guard the river, and at 40 sent west to cultivate the camp farms. The mayor wound their turbans for them. When they started out, with their turban hair white now, they are still at the border where the blood of men spills like the sea, and still the heart of Emperor Wu is beating for war. Do you know that east of the China's mountains, in 200 districts and in thousands of villages, nothing grows but weeds, and though strong women have bent to the plowing, east and west the furrows all are broken down. Men and women are able to face the stiffest battle, but their officers drive them like chickens and dogs. Whatever is asked of them, there they complain. For example, this winter, held west of the gate, challenged for taxes. How could they pay? We have learned that to have a son is bad luck. It is very much better to have a daughter who can marry and live in the house of a neighbor. While under the sod we bury our boys, go to the blue sea, look along the shore, and all the old white bones forsaken. New ghosts are wailing there, now with the old, loudest in the dark sky of a stormy day. Wow. We've read a lot of war poems, but I feel like this one is the best. Yeah. Right. I think it starts kind of, well, I like the start a lot. It's like 车辚辚, so this is it's like the sound effects, right? Ling Ling, the chariot is going ling 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 ling, the wheels rumbling, and then the horse is like neighing. It's like yeah, whinnying. So you start with this setting of the scene, and then you have uh just he's depicting the scene of like the soldiers sort of leaving home, right? Yeah, and the family is like unwilling to just reset to see them go. Yeah. And yeah, just every time a bystander asks you a question, you can only say to him that you have to go. I think it starts with this very personal scene, and that really makes I think that really makes the rest more powerful, because I think it's more impactful, right? When we see like an individual story, then like when you just say like, oh, hundreds of thousands, like it's not a number that makes sense to us intuitively. Yeah. Okay, so um so these are all these people who were sent out, and they spent so long that their hair has turned white, but they're still fighting. Yeah, and the heart of Emperor Wu is still beating for war. Next, then it sort of goes back home, and it says, well, there are only weeds growing, but even though the women have taken over all the difficult farming, but even then things are not working well, right? Because the farm equipment no longer works. Yeah. Oh, Danica says, wow, it's really well written. Yeah, agreed, right? It's so good, huh? So good. So it's sort of going back home, and then says, men of China are able to face the stiffest battle, but the officers drive them like chickens and dogs. Whatever is asked of them, there they complain. Yeah. And for example, this winter out west of the gate, challenge for taxes, how can they pay? Right. So first is like the personal dimension, and then it's like, like missing your family. And then it's like, well, it's sort of endless. No matter, it's been like 25 years, I guess, or more, but they're still not home, which is insane, right? It's like, wow, this like most of their lives are gone. And then at home, things are just not working because uh yeah, like no matter how good the wives are, the women are, like, I mean, imagine like half the population is gone, right? That's insane. Yeah. And then there's still taxes to fund the war effort, right? Which is just yeah, and just imagine like going to being at war for like over 25 years straight. That's insane. Even the Iliad is like 10 years, right? Trojan War is like 10 years. Yeah. And the next we have learned that to have a son is bad luck. It is very much better to have a daughter who can marry and live in the house of a neighbor, while under the sod we bury our boys. So I mean, traditionally they're like, well, because usually if it's a daughter, then if it's married out, then the daughter is like considered under the husband's family. So that's it's like the daughter is you are usually separated from your daughter, right? But now it's different because then the son is, even if the daughter is married, is still at least in the house of a neighbor, but the son is like gone for 30 years, basically. So it's sort of, yeah, just even like these traditional conceptions, I mean, kind of sexist conceptions are, but even that is like turned on its head. Yeah. And then go to the blue sea, look along the shore, and all the old white bones forsaken. New ghosts are wailing there now with the old, loudest in the dark sky of a stormy day. Whoa. Yeah. Danica says it explained everything that happens in war in all social spheres. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. It's like I don't even have anything to say for this. It's just so good. It explains everything so well in such a powerful way. Like what's there to say? I feel like this is the same vibes as the as like those World War One poems. I think maybe this should be in one of those anti-war poetry collections. Yeah, but this is it's so good. It's just so good. Yeah, I mean, not even the world wars were like 30 years, right? This is really crazy. Yeah, but I guess this is because it's a continuous border defense, but still just insane. Yeah. Okay. I guess there really isn't much to say, but yeah, brilliant, brilliant poem. Yeah. Du Fu is so good, honestly. Du Fu and Li Bai, they're not overrated, man. They're just that good. They're really just that good. Uh, okay, next. This is talking about the opening where it's like, the horses, the chariot goes ling ling and the horse goes xiao xiao. I'm not really sure what he's saying here, but he says, I think he's saying like this still very as a grave introduction to start the poem. I guess so, right? I think it does start it in a very like visceral way. You're just like it's like you're just there. But you can just hear the vibe, right? Actually, it reminds me of the opening to like Skyrim, right? You're like on some cart, and then it's like the guy's like, "Hey, traveler." Okay, weird association, but yeah, good opening. Okay, Danica's just laughing. Okay, what else should we talk about here? I mean, it was really good, right. Oh, this is a strange, this is an interesting comment. It says, I mean, the theme is about the soldiers, right, fighting, and then the this is the setup is like a question and answer. Not sure if I see that today. Okay, maybe it's the structure of the song because it's meant as a song, right? So yeah. Oh, but this is interesting. It says it opens with people crying, right? Because the all the family is crying, and it ends with ghosts crying. That's interesting. Wow. So it's like from people it becomes ghosts, and even in death you are still crying. Wow. Okay, I think that's about it for this. But yeah, wow, so good. Such a great poem. Okay, wow, another one by Du Fu. So exciting, huh? So Du Fu, A Song of Fair Women, 丽人行。3月3日天气新，长安水边多丽人。菜浓意远，熟且真，肌理细腻，骨肉 韵，绣罗衣上照暮春，簇金孔雀迎麒麟，头上何所有？翠微荷叶垂冰唇，背后何所见？朱鸦腰脊稳称身，旧中云木交房清，赐名大国。国与秦，紫驼之风出翠府，水晶之盘行素林，西堵燕日久未下，鸳刀履切空分轮，黄门飞控不动尘，日除劳役送八珍，箫鼓哀吟感鬼神，兵从杂沓食药金，后来按马何郡巡，当轩下马入锦军，杨花雪落覆白屏，青鸟飞去衔红巾，炙手可热视绝伦。圣莫近前丞相称 I don't know what's going on. Okay. On the third day of the third month, in the freshening weather, many beauties take the air by the Chang'an waterfront, receptive, aloof, sweet-mannered, sincere, with soft fine skin and well-balanced bone. Their embroidered silk robes in the spring sun are gleaming, with a mass of golden peacocks and silver unicorns, and hanging far down from their temples are blue leaves of delicate kingfisher feathers. And following behind them is a pearl-laden train, rhythmic with bearers. Some of them are kindred to the royal house, the titled princesses Guo and Qin. Red camel humps are brought them from jade broilers, and sweet fish is ordered them on crystal trays. Though their food sticks of unicorn horn are lifted languidly, and the finely wrought phoenix carving knife is very little used. Fleet horses from the yellow gate, steering no dust, bring precious dishes constantly from the imperial kitchen, while a solemn sound of flutes and drums invokes gods and spirits. Guests and courtiers gather, all of a high rank. And finally, a dignified horseman dismounts at the pavilion on an embroidered rug. In the snow of flying willow cotton, whitening the duckweed, bluebirds find their way with vermilion handkerchiefs, but power can be as hot as flame and burn people's fingers. Be wary of the premier, watch for his frown. Okay, the ending is very interesting. But yeah, but I guess when you're talking about like the unicorns and stuff, this should be like the design on the robe, because obviously unicorns, but the qilin lah for Chinese, is also a mythical animal, right? Like obviously that doesn't exist. So, and then the unicorn horn food sticks, pretty sure those are embroidered or something. No way it's real. So, yeah. Okay, so then I think it was the last part though. What is he talking about? The premiere? Okay. So this is right. I wasn't the only one who felt this was too elaborate. So this is supposed to be a poem about the decadence before the An Lushan rebellion, right? So if you remember, it's always blamed on like the Lady Yang, concubine Yang. Oh yeah, maybe Lady Yang. So because she's like the empress favorite, right? And then like because of that, all her siblings were brought in. And this apparently this is a poem about how decadent their lifestyle is. And this is pre rebellion now. Yeah. So it's you ask women that live in comfort, therefore live in complete obliviousness. Maybe. or at least I'm not sure if it's a general rule, but here it does seem like they're quite oblivious, right? And also it's just they're using so many like resources, like they're eating camels and everything is like jade. It's pretty intense. Especially if you remember the last poem, then these people are like, shit man, we can't pay taxes. Like our um our furrows are broken. And these guys are like eating camels and just embroidered robes and like carved chopsticks. So food sticks is just chopsticks in this translation. Yeah. So things like that is pretty, I guess it's just the emphasis is just how decadent it is or how excessive. I thought at first I thought it was like kind of cool, and then you got to like no way, you're eating a freaking camel hump. That's a bit much, no? Yeah. I'm very curious about this last part about the premiere. You need to be careful about. Okay, so the premier is the brother of Lady Yang. So it's saying that power might corrupt, right? That's sort of the idea. And yeah, I don't know. It doesn't go well. If you know history, it really doesn't go well, right? All this, it's just all downhill from this, because of the rebellion. Yeah. So, okay. Then I could ask, bluebirds find their way with vermilion handkerchiefs. Does this line represent an attack? Interesting. What does this mean? Let's see. Yeah, what does this mean? So one interpretation is that the bluebirds, they pick up the handkerchiefs lying on the ground. I don't know, is it to make a nest? I guess then they're just very wasteful, right? It's just, this has to be a pretty fancy thing. And they sort of just leave it all over. And, the birds just pick it up. I don't know for what, to build a nest, maybe. I guess it does. I would say probably the whole poem is a criticism or an attack about the uh just the whole decadence of this court. Yeah, yeah. Actually, looking at that, I wonder if this food sticks of unicorn horn, how do they write it? Is it also supposed to say that they're naive? That they think like, oh, this is literally a food stick made from unicorn horn, and they're just like dumb to believe in it? I wonder. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. I think I don't really get it, but I think it's trying to say that even though this is a critical poem, but the way it's written, it is still very beautiful. So, so even if it's trying to describe it as excessive, it still depicts it as something that is desirable, or just he describes beautiful things beautifully, right? So he's not denying its beauty, but that it is too much. And okay, so that's kind of interesting. Hmm. Not sure what is there, what else to say. Okay, this is like this also mentions a green bird thing. Let me just check what this character means. Maybe it's useful. Okay, so it means like to bite in your mouth. So here it's literally the bluebird like bites the handkerchief in their mouth. So it is picking it up, basically. Okay. Yeah, so I guess it is to build a nest or something. Hmm. I'll just close some of these tabs. So yeah, okay. But the comment about that is that yeah, they're all very elegantly written. Um without any, so he doesn't, the lines do not include any like attacks, but altogether it becomes an attack. I don't know, I think the last line, right? I think it also says here the last line is sort of has the turn comes in the last line, last two lines where things don't seem as perfect as things are not as perfect as they seem. They seem. So yeah. Okay. Hmm. Okay. So food sticks made of rhinoceros horns, maybe. You're asking who the premier is. So the premier is the brother of Lady Yang. So he you probably remember that he got to power because the emperor was just so in love with his sister, and then after that, just all the family came to court. Yeah, and yeah, so as you can tell, it's not a matter of, it's not because he's the best person for the job. It's because of nepotism. Yeah, so that's why I think bringing him up really makes the point of the poem clearer to me. But if he didn't put this part, then it's just like, okay, it's a very nice scene. I think the last part where it seems like he has a pretty bad anger, I think it implies that he's not a very good prime minister and that he doesn't really deserve all this stuff. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. That's maybe we can move to the next one. I'll just blow my nose first. Okay. And maybe we can move on to this next one. A song of sobbing by the river. Whoa. Okay. So, oh, you have a question here. Is he the dignified horseman that arrives too, or these are two separate people? That's a good point. Is he? Hmm. It could be. I'm not really sure. Okay. Yeah. Okay lah. Yeah. I don't really have a good answer to that, but it could be. It's kind of ambiguous lah. I think the Chinese. All right, then okay, say the next one. Okay, so a song of sobbing by the river, 爱江头. And also you you know there's a lag, right? So that's why like I'm replying like 10-20 seconds after you type. Okay, so a song of yeah, so just the I'm not trying to ignore you, just that's the lag. Okay, so next one, right? I'll just start reading lah. Oh, hey, Jose, more complaining than now crying by the river. Let's see. Maybe it's warranted complaining. All right, so let's see, right? 少陵野老吞声哭，春日前行曲江曲。江头宫殿锁千门，细柳新浦为谁日？一夕泥惊下南远，院中景物生颜色。朝阳殿里第一人，同辇随君侍君侧。辇前才人带弓箭，白马绝孽黄金勒。翻身向天仰射云，一箭正一箭正坠双飞翼。明眸皓齿今何在？雪屋游魂归不得。清渭东流渐隔深，去住彼此无消息。人生有情泪沾意，江水江花起终极。黄昏忽其尘满城，日往城南望城北。I am only an old woodsman, whispering a sob, as I steal like a spring shadow down the winding river. Since the palaces ashore are sealed by the 1,000 gates, fine willows, new rushes, for whom are you so green? I remember a cloud of flags that came from the south garden, and 10,000 colors heightening one another, and the kingdom's first lady from the palace of the bright sun, attendant on the emperor in his royal chariot, and the horsemen before them, each with bow and arrows, and the snowy horses champing at bits of yellow gold, and an archer breast skyward, shooting through the clouds, and felling with one dart a pair of flying birds. Where are those perfect eyes? Where are those pearly teeth? A blood-stained spirit has no home, has nowhere to return. And clear away waters running east, through the cleft on Dagger Tower's trail, carry neither there nor here any news of her. People, compassionate, are wishing with tears that she were as eternal as the river and the flowers. Mounted Tartars in the yellow twilight cloud the town with dust. I am fleeing south, but I linger gazing northward toward the throne. Huh. Trying to understand what's going on. So I'm guessing the first lady is Lady Young, right? So this must be during the rebellion. And is this after she died? Okay, right. So this is from the perspective of the emperor, and then it's so first half is they let's see. Okay, so the first one is they're sort of like they're going on a trip together. So these are like good old days, and then now suddenly here the second half is like the emperor sort of fleeing and the Lady Young is dead because of the rebellion, which I must have mentioned 100 times at this point. But yeah, so it's meant to have a sort of contrast. So I was a bit confused, like what's with the going on, but I guess yeah, it's actually changing scene here. Right. Okay. That makes more sense to me. Then let's look at it more closely. So this is a okay, this is from the perspective of a just a commoner, right? I'm okay. I think it's a bit translation that the speaker is the woodsman. Maybe it's a bit off. It just says there is an old man who is a woodsman who's crying, right? So anyway, there are all these things coming. Just this very again very excessive display uh of the king and his and Lady Yang sort of touring the winding river, right? It's like, wow, snowy horses champing at bits of yellow gold, archer shooting birds, right? Okay, let's see. But I think this is a good transition, actually. Really smart, right? Because he's shooting down this pair of birds, and then now, the pair, the couple is no more. Like that's the transition to the next part, because where are those perfect eyes? Where are those perfectly teeth? So here, Lady Yang is dead. It's already during the rebellion. She got executed. Um, and yeah, a bloodstained spirit has no home, nowhere to return to, nowhere to return. Clearway River, Clearway waters running east through the clefts on Dagger Tower Trail carry neither there nor here any news of her. So I'm a bit confused about this because where it says people wish she were still alive, but I'm not sure why normal people would care. Yeah. But anyway, the people are coming, mounted Tartars are coming, and this part, I am fleeing south, but I linger, gazing northward toward the throne. Does seem like it's more from the perspective of I don't think it's from the perspective of the woodsman. I think it sounds like it's just from Tu Fu himself. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Wonder what you think of this. But I guess he's crying not really because of the lady, is it? Okay. Why don't we look at some of the comments? Say learning history with 808 CJK. Yeah, and then you say maybe the woodsman is the emperor that escaped and lived a humbled life after the rebellion and misses his old glory, or a metaphor. Yeah, maybe the lady is a metaphor for the imperial city or life. That's interesting. That's why the lady is being missed, right? Okay, at least for the Wikipedia would say that this is about the historical emperor and the Lady Yang. So, but the woodsman, that's oh, that's interesting. That might be quite a interesting idea. Yeah, I do see how the lady could be a metaphor for like a better time, right? So it's not specifically like I think the normal people obviously they wouldn't see the emperor's wife very frequently, but maybe it is a symbol of like a better time before all the trouble. But it's very weird, right? Because she on the one hand she symbolizes that time, but on the other hand, she's blamed for causing the ending of that time. Because people always blame, or at least the officials were blaming her for sort of leading the emperor astray and then filling the court with her family members. So like her brother is a prime minister, right? Because of her. And yeah. Yeah, but I mean, there's definitely this part where, they do miss her. So, and of course, if you remember the poem we read last time, the Song of Everlasting Sorrow, it does seem quite sympathetic towards her because it's the one where the emperor is like, "Oh, I miss her so much," and then there's a like some shaman, some Taoist dude who can like project his soul, like astral project to like other dimensions or something, and then like he sees her. So I think you're right. I think you guys are really pointing to the kind of internal tension in the way she is understood, Lady Young. Because even now she's still like remembered as like a she's very famous, right? As one of the four great beauties of like China, historical beauties. And yeah, I think it's interesting that there is this tension. And on the one hand, she's portrayed as, you know, just she has a lot of positive portrayals, but also negative associations. So yeah, pretty interesting. Hmm. The nigga says, as far as you know, historically, ladies couldn't leave the imperial palace no matter what. So they could be written as an intrinsic part of the palace. But I think in this case, they're at least visiting the winding river. Yeah, not sure where this is, but I guess you're saying because of that, they have a strong association with the palace, right? Okay, that makes sense. Hmm. I wonder what's with this winding river thing. This Chujiang. Look at the context for this. Okay, so this is the context is that the Du Fu is fleeing, and then he came across this. He's crossing the winding river, and then he remembers the time when the emperor and Lady Yang were touring that place. Where is this? Um, oh, he is calling himself the Old Woodsman. That's right. That's right. Because he used to live in this place. So he is the Old Woodsman. That's really interesting. I guess now this is before the order was established. So he's kind of just like chopping wood, trying to survive. Interesting. Okay. Hmm. Interesting. Why can't I find a link to the river? Should I look at Google Maps? I don't think I'm not good with geography, so I don't really know where it is. But okay, so this is Chujiang. That's not helpful. I don't know where Chang'an is. I'm not very good at this. Well, let's see. Oh, okay, okay. So Chujiang it was part of Chang'an. So they didn't leave too far from the city lah. So he is still within the city, the capital city itself. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Be here. Or maybe let's just look through some famous critics to see. I think you guys do make pretty good points about this. So I wonder if they have more about what Lady Young symbolizes. Hmm. Okay. I don't see much. Yeah. But they are saying like so the point of this is to grieve the passing of the Lady Young, and to do it in a more subtle way. Hmm. Okay. And what is a spring shadow? Winding rivers. What is a spring shadow? What is this? Okay. 日前行曲江曲，前行. So this is like just here. Literally, it would be like on a spring day, I move um, secretly or stealthily around the Chujiang. So this is just the winding river. Um, I don't. How would they translate it here? Okay, so he secretly came to the side of the Crooked River. Oh, it's because this is after the rebellion. So this is when things are still unsettled, right? So he sort of like, so it starts in the present, and then he sort of comes to the winding river, and then he has the flashback to the past. Okay. So you're saying, right? Yeah, yeah. So here the winding river is, in fact, he is flashing, he is thinking about his memories, right? You see, it's a memory that comes back. Yeah, exactly. So, but it is a real river that exists, but it also becomes I guess it also could be a metaphor, right? Yeah. Because I mean he could think of Lady Young at any other place that she's been to, but he chooses this specific river. So that's pretty interesting. Okay. Huh. And yeah, but there isn't a in the Chinese there isn't any character that specifically uses like shadow. Yeah. So this is more of an English. The translator put it in there. Okay. Any more thoughts about this? I feel like there's stuff to talk about, but like somehow it's not coming to me. Hmm. Okay, if you guys have anything, just feel free to type. I'll move on to the next poem first, and then we can always come back. Okay, so this one, I Wang Sun, a song of a prince deposed by Du Fu again. So this will be the last of the folk song style verse. Let me check the time. Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh wow, okay, 4 more poems. Dang, okay, I guess today will be a longer one. Let's see if we can do it. So here, I Wang Sun. I'll just read this out. 长安城头头百鸟，夜飞停秋门上呼。又向人家着大屋，屋底打官走壁胡。金鞭断折九马死，骨肉不带同持躯。摇下宝块青山湖。问之不肯道姓名，但道困苦岂为奴？已经百日窜。荆棘山上无有顽疾夫，高帝子孙尽龙准，龙种自与常人殊。豺狼在巴，龙在野，王孙善保千金须，不敢常与邻交渠，且为王孙立思绪。昨夜东风吹血腥，东来驼满旧都。朔方健儿好身肘，西河永瑞，今何如？且闻天子以传位，圣德北服南丹隅。花门篱面勤学耻，慎勿出口他人居。哀哉王孙慎勿书，武林家气无时无。Along the wall of a capital, a white-headed crow flies to the gate where the autumn enters and screams there in the night, then turns again and pecks among the roofs of a tall mansion, whose lord, a mighty mandarin, has fled before the Tartars. With his golden whip now broken, his 9 war horses dead, and his own flesh and bones scattered to the winds. There's a rare ring of green coral underneath the vest of a prince at the street corner, bitterly sobbing, who has to give a false name to anyone who asks him. Just a poor fellow hoping for employment, 100 days hiding in grasses and thorns, show on his body from head to foot, but since their first emperor, all with hooked noses, these dragons look different from ordinary men. Wolves are in the palace now, and dragons are lost in the desert. O prince, be very careful of your most sacred person. I dare not address you long, here by the open road, nor even to stand beside you for more than these few moments. Last night, with the spring wind, there came a smell of blood. The old capital is full of camels from the east. Our northern warriors are sound enough of body and of hand. Oh, why so brave in olden times and so craven now? Our emperor, we hear, has given his son the throne, and the southern border chieftains are loyally inclined. And the Huamen and Limian tribes are gathering to avenge us. But still be careful, keep yourself well hidden from the dagger. Unhappy prince, I beg you, be constantly on guard, till power blow to your aid from the 5 imperial tombs. Who is this prince? I'm so confused. Is there really a prince who's doing this? Oh, so this is real. This actually happened. It's like a... Well, it doesn't have to be a prince. It's just this is more like just a royal, part of the royal family. And so when the emperor escaped during the rebellion, he only brought Lady Yang and her sisters, and all his other concubines, children, and princesses, they were not able to escape. Damn. So wow. And so the dragons here are just a way because like the emperor is like supposed to be like a dragon, right? So these dragons are um supposed to be describing the people of royal blood. But obviously it's kind of ironic here, right? Because these dragons are not very powerful, not very uh self-sufficient. Yeah. Okay. Hmm. Okay. It says the the prince is has to live on the low, and you say the court. What is the court? So this is not like a metaphor for the court. This is just this is literally like they are on the street. Yeah, because just they were being invaded, and then they were all sort of escaping from the invaders. Yeah, yeah. I guess it is a pretty clear poem, right? Right. Yeah. Okay. This is an interesting point, though, is because these are this royal family. They were the ones who sort of well, they sort of like unified the whole country, right? So they used to be very strong warriors, but now, um, I think he's saying why are their descendants so weak? Yeah. Huh. And then he said, well, just stay safe because people are gathering strength, and we will be able to get back power, but just be safe. There's so many of them, right? Like I'm sure he has like tons of concubines and kids. So like there's so many of them, and I guess it's just not possible to look after all of them, even if there are still a lot of people loyal to the emperor. Yeah. It says dragon represents the court, more rebellions, who's the crow. I think the dragon is just the emperor. The emperor is usually like he always wears the robe, right, with the dragons on it, and just so it's like a symbol for the emperor or like the royal line. I don't think other people are allowed to wear like dragon clothes. So yeah. And then you ask, who's the crow? Right. I think the crow is a metaphor for the invaders. Good question, right? So the white-headed crow seems kind of inauspicious. I don't really. It sounds like actually this white-headed crow sounds like a vulture, right? Is it really a crow? But it seems like a really bad. Okay, it is a inauspicious. It is an inauspicious sign. Yeah, it's a bad sign now. Yeah, apparently because in the previous rebellion in the previous dynasty, there were like tons of white-headed crows gathered in some building. So it's just a historical precedent of like bad vibes. It feels like this is a vulture, man. Right? Like if there's a rebellion and there's like killing, it makes sense that vultures would come. Maybe. Okay. I think let me just look at the famous critics now. Okay. And you say the dragon's family had seen better times. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like, yeah. And the dad's a bit selfish, right? He just brings like his lady young and then her family, and then he leaves behind all his kids. Not very responsible guy. But I guess if there's like 100 people, it's gonna be very hard to bring everyone. Okay, then we have here the two famous critics. The first one says this is really good. Yeah, it spends a lot of words to say it's really good. And the other one, then Nicholas says he doesn't care about his kid because he can make more. I guess it's true. He's with his favorite wife and like all her sisters. So it could always make more dragons. Yeah. Oh, I love this guy. Famous scholar. I wonder what he says. So Wang Fuzhi is really, really cool. Um, hmm. um, I don't really understand this. Let me see. Is this even in the poem? Okay, this is not a line in the poem, but he says, it's usually people lament people for being unfilial, but here, no, it is for not looking like, not being similar to their parents, but only this guy, only Tu Fu is laments that the child resembles their parents too much. Oh, because he said the princes all have like a big nose, which is like a clear sign that they're of royal descent. Interesting. That's really smart. Oh, okay, that's really interesting. And I never thought about that. Right, so these dragons look like or look different from ordinary men. Okay. If there aren't any comments, let me move on first. Yeah, this is the last one for. Okay, so this is the last folk song style verse. So why don't we're moving on to this new genre, which I think is pretty fun, pretty cool. So let's take a look. These are the 5-character regulated verses, and as you can tell, each line has 5 characters. And this is a very strict rule. So all of them should be in this, like this, right? And there are, let me close this. Yeah, but the number of lines can vary, as you can tell as well. Oh, actually, wait, right? They do vary, right? I'm pretty sure. Let me check. Okay, no. It has to be 8 lines. Okay, my mistake. Well, that means we can read through them pretty fast. That's good. Yeah, it's always 5 characters per line for 8 lines. And then they have very strong, very strict rhythm. So I think we mentioned this before, but okay, so these are the rhythm patterns. So there's basically only how many? 4 kinds. So this is the first one, second one, third one, and fourth one. So yeah. So the ping, so essentially there's 2 kinds. Every character can either be ping or 仄. So ping, it just means it has like a flat tone. And then 仄, it will be like a non-flat tone. But this is for Middle Chinese. So it's kind of different now. But yeah, essentially the upshot is that they have very strict rules from for what characters can be placed where. So this is a form with a lot of constraints. Yeah, it's like a sonnet, right? It's like, oh, you gotta rhyme like this, and then you gotta the stress pattern needs to be like that. So yeah, I think a sonnet is a good comparison. This is like a sonnet, a Chinese sonnet with pretty strict rules, but also you see, I think maybe because the rules are so strict, it also helps you come up with it more easily, almost. It's like there's a fixed format that you just have to fill. Yeah. But anyway, I think it's quite shocking that there's a full, what's this, 80 poems in this genre. That's like, the whole collection has like 320 poems that it's like a whole quarter of the collection is in this genre. So yeah, we'll be here for quite a bit. And so I hope you like it, because we're gonna be reading a lot of them. Yeah. Okay, so explain the rules and their effects on the meaning of the poems just a bit. It can be on a superficial level. Well, here I'm not sure if there is much effect on the meaning, because again, these rules are entirely on the level of sound. So this is like not flat. So let's see this first line now of this first version of the stress pattern, right? Or the meter, right? So this is like the first two characters has been not flat, and then the next two is flat, and the third one is not flat. So okay, 则 is not flat, and 平 is flat. So it's 则平平则平平则平. And these all have to rhyme, if I'm not wrong. If I just check, so it's like 中公穷同. So the end of every second line has to rhyme. So these are more about how it sounds, but it doesn't have that much. It doesn't really say like, oh, it has to mean this or that. So it's not like let me check, but it's not like a haiku, because something like a haiku, even though we say like it's like just 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5 syllables, but it also has some things where it's like you need to bring in like a imagery of a certain season or things like that, right? Yeah, but but here there is another interesting point. It just says the second group of 2 lines and the third group of 2 lines, they must have some sort of contrast. Yeah, I think that might be relevant to what you're saying. So okay, why don't we look at this example, and we can see if that shows up. So it will be that this couplet and this couplet are supposed to contrast in some way. All right. So here, is 荆州鲁寄孔子而叹之. So I pass through the Lu dukedom with a sigh and a sacrifice for Confucius. This is by the emperor himself, Tang Xuanzong. This is the guy this is Lady Yang's husband. This is that guy. That's pretty interesting. Okay, so here. 夫子何为者？西溪一带中，地游邹市巴，宅及鲁王宫。叹凤皆生否？伤灵怨道穷。今看两营殿，当与孟石同。O master, how did the world repay your life of long solicitude? The lords of Zhou have misprized your land, and your home has been used as the palace of Lu. You foretold that when phoenixes vanished, your fortunes too would end. You knew that the captured unicorn would be a sign of the dose of your teaching. It should be the close of your teaching. Can this sacrifice I watch, sure between 2 temple pillars, be the self-same omen of death you dreamed of long ago? I think this man, he sounds so depressed. He must be on the rebellion here. He must be escaping from somewhere, right? No, huh. Okay, no, he was just there for some kind of official sacrifice. Why is he so depressed? He's the emperor. Alright, so he says, I guess maybe some background on Confucius, which is that he wasn't that successful during his lifetime. Um, like he wanted to be a high-ranking official in his home state of Lu, this Lu, and but it didn't really work out lah. Like people thought he was sort of too old-fashioned or too impractical, and so he even had this stint where he was like traveling around the different states trying to offer his services to whoever would hire him. Well, I mean, he also had some standards, but it's like he was trying to find a good uh sort of lord to work under. But in the end, it didn't really work out. And then he sort of just focused on teaching. Yeah. And it's sort of people think that he also edited these famous books, the classics, books of classics. He edited them. And so he sort of but he obviously he left a big legacy as a teacher, right? And I guess as a scholar as well. So that's why Xuanzong, he's sort of thinking of, he's like, wow, you put in so much work and you didn't really see much of it, see much recognition during your lifetime. Yeah. And here, I think, so how did the world repay your life of long solicitude? And I think here I'm not sure who misprised his land. I guess this is during his time or what? But why does he sound so sad? He's the emperor, right? He could fix anything he doesn't like. Okay. I think then this is probably during the talking about what happened in Confucius's life. Okay. And he said, you foretold that when phoenixes vanish, your fortunes too would end. So I think this is one famous story where so he says a phoenix is a symbol or is a omen that uh a sage has emerged and will be honored. But since he doesn't see a phoenix, it means he does not have the fortune to see a sage. So he doesn't consider himself a sage. Yeah. And then this other one is the Ling, the unicorn, right? In quotes. It's just another mythical beast. And here it's supposed to symbol, like apparently when it comes, right, it's supposed to show that it will be a great peace and like the world will prosper. But the legend has it that like such a this unicorn did come, and then some guy straight up like hunted it. And then so Confucius was like so sad. It's like, damn man, like you you freaking killed it, you know? Like, that's not a good sign. And apparently when that happened, like he was just really depressed. And I think he died shortly after. That's the story, yeah. Yeah. So and then the captured unicorn would be a sign of I think the close of your teaching. And so, but I'm not sure what exactly this Xuanzong guy, I mean the emperor, is thinking when he's like, now he's making the sacrifice in the temple, and then he's like, could this be the same omen of death you dreamed of long ago? I don't know. Maybe I just have a bad impression of this emperor, but I don't really understand what's going on. Oh, I guess maybe he's having a premonition because when was this written? Is this pre or post rebellion? I think this is pre-rebellion. So I guess maybe he has some feeling of like things are not going too well and that and I mean he is right, right? Like things are not going to go well. Wow, interesting. Jose says, now the emperor's perspective. Uh-huh. And Danica says, oh, his reign was prosperous for 40 years too. Oh, yeah, that's true, right? I think this is like, I don't know. I guess I find this most interesting as like as part of the story of like Jose said is his side of the story, but he also feels like a bit uneasy and he has a sense that things are gonna go to shit. Yeah. So that's pretty interesting. And in terms of the comments, people quite like this poem. I think that's cool. They said that's really good. And yeah, just this is really good. Yeah. I think maybe one last thing, maybe let's check out what we were talking about the two contrast between the second and the third couplet. So the second couplet will be, the lords of Zhou have misprized your land, and your home has been used as the palace of Lu. Then the third couplet, you foretold that when phoenixes vanish, your fortunes too would end. You knew that the captured unicorn would be a sign of the close of your teaching. I don't see it. I don't see how. Oh, no, no, no. So it's not about, okay, it's not about that these two couplets parallel each other, but that within the couplet they do. So you see here, let's see the second couplet, right? So the first character, this is land and this is residence. So this is a parallel. And then this one, these two are both like adverbs, right? And this one is like Zhou and Lu. So both places, names of places. And here is like clan and king. And then the last one is city and palace. So all of these, they actually correspond to each other in terms of what kind of character it is. So yeah, pretty nice. And then here, sighing and injured, and the phoenix and the unicorn, the sighing and complaining, person and the way, and body and the way, and then to negate and to exhaust. So that's what it was saying about the parallels here. Yeah, so actually you can see how this is like super, there's so many constraints that it really is like a sonnet. Yeah. So yeah, I hope that was interesting. Maybe we should move on to the next poem. Not really sure what else there is for this, but if you guys have any ideas, just put it in. Let me close some tabs first, actually. So here we have the next one by Zhang Jiuling, looking at the moon and thinking of one far away. Oh, thinking of someone far away, not thinking of the moon that is far away. 望月怀远，海上生明月，天涯共此时。情人怨遥也，竟夕起相思。竟如怜光满，披衣觉露滋。不堪盈手赠，还请梦佳期。The moon, growing full now over the sea, brightening the whole of heaven, brings to separated hearts the long thoughtfulness of night. It is no darker though I blow out my candle. It is no warmer though I put on my coat. So I leave my message with the moon and turn to my bed, hoping for dreams. I see the parallelism. He tries to put it in the English here as well, right? Because these are clearly parallel to each other. Yeah. but it's kind of not so parallel in the Chinese, but as in it's not that. Yeah, I mean it's there, but yeah, he's trying to render the effect here as well in English. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so what is this about? Was about looking at the moon and thinking of one far away. And as you may know, the moon is a big symbol of um I guess longing, right? Of missing someone. So, okay, so the moon grown full now over the sea, brightening the whole of heaven. Now that these poems are shorter, I think I can look more in the actual Chinese here. So this one, I guess, is more like the horizons, like the edges of the world. I guess they both share this moment. Yeah, because this is like a full moon, and I guess the whole world presumably is can see it at once, right? So it's like a moment that's shared by everyone. And then it should be the lovers uh are they're unhappy about the distant night. I guess it's the night spent apart. And so hmm, I don't think I'll translate this as unexpected. Yeah. I feel like you say like the total evening. 惊喜. Right, exactly. Yeah. So, and then the entire night they were longing for one another. Um, the extinguished candle, or extinguish the candle. But I've extinguished the candle, but the light of pity, I don't know, the glow of pity is just as full. I put on my coat and I still feel the nourishment of the dew. Hmm. Okay, this is definitely a mistranslation, the last part. Um, so let's look at this. Okay, maybe it's not. Maybe I misread it, but oh, so I can't give you the moon with my hands. There's one reading here. But I am returning to my slumber, and there I will uh reunite with you in a dream. That's one reading. I sort of read this as I'll return to slumber and I dream of the day when we reunite. So reunite in real life. Yeah. But it's sort of the same idea, but different formulation. Yeah, I hope that helped. I think shorter poems to really you need to look at it a bit more closely in terms of the translation because you don't have as much plot, right? So a lot of it is in the specific phrasing. They say the extinguished candle and putting on coat can mean anxiety of waiting and longing. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I see that. I guess maybe it's like if you're usually, I don't know, if usually you like go to bed together and you need to like put out the candle and then like you go to put on your coat and you're like, oh, It's like, oh, can't wait to spoon, but the person is not there. That's the kind of association that I have. It's like, oh, I'm getting ready to spoon, but then oops, I'm alone. Yeah. But I mean that's like that's why it's sort of because the person is not there, that's why there's a longing and waiting, right? Yeah. I like this quite a bit. Mm, yeah. Any thoughts? I'll just look at some of the comments as well. But, hmm. Okay, so the important part is in the extinguishing and the but the light is still full. Not really sure what that means actually. Why is the light still full? Oh, it's because of the moon. The moon is just as bright. Okay. Oh, that's really good image then. It's like even though like the extinguished candle is like the lover is not there, but it's no less dark, right? It's no less bright because the love is just as much, even though they're not physically there. Ah, interesting. And Danica says, or it means unquietness, or that the person is in a different time from them. Right. Interesting. Right. I'm kind of reading the it being full of light as a more positively though. Yeah. And Jose says you kind of see the idea of both lovers watching the same moon. Yeah, I like that. I really like that. Yeah. Right. That's this line, right? Where it says the entire world is sharing in this moment. Or people's separated across the world are united by this moment. Yeah. I think it's a very cute line. If you guys are ever in a long distance relationship, you can send this line to them, 天涯共此时. Yeah. Yeah. Really. Yeah, actually you guys can just send your poem to I don't know, your partner if you're ever in a long distance relationship. So cute. Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's look at more comments if there are. Um famous critics. Okay, that's about it. Then maybe we can move on to the next one. Thanks. Okay, so the next one by Wang Bo. Farewell to Vice Prefect Du, setting out for his official post in Shu. So 送杜少府之任蜀州。城对，城阙辅三秦，风烟望五津。与君离别意，同是宦游人。海内存知己，天涯若比邻。无为在歧路，儿女共沾巾。By this wall that separates the three Qin districts, through a mist that makes five rivers one, we bid each other a sad farewell, we two officials going opposite ways. And yet, while China holds our friendship and heaven remains our neighborhood, why should you linger at the fork of the road, wiping your eyes like a heartbroken child? So this is a very okay, I think the translation is not very good here, so I will retranslate some parts, but this is a very, very famous line, these two lines. So 海内存知己，天涯若比邻. So usually there's a few ways to talk about like the world, right, in Chinese. You can say like within the four seas. So because idea is like it's like a land, it's like a continent and it's like surrounded by water. So it says within the seas, if there exists someone who knows you, who truly knows you, then even if you're separated across the world, it is like you are neighbors, like your immediate neighbors. So this is a very famous line, like really good, right? It's like it's not about the distance, but our physical distance is not as important as emotional distance. Like you can still be very close emotionally, even if you are far apart. So it's another good long distance poem, but this is more for friendship, I guess. Yeah. This is about knowing you, someone who understands you. Yeah. Okay, so maybe just look at the other lines, but this is definitely the highlight. Yeah. So Chen, the 3 Qin districts through a mist that makes 5 verse 1. So this is just really setting the scene, right? Like this is concretely, like this is where they are departing. And then they're like, okay, we have to go. And we're both people, officials who need to, you know, travel, need to go our own ways. Because officials, they're always like sent to different places for their jobs. New govern places, and they cannot govern the place where they come from because people are scared that the system is designed to prevent like nepotism, right? They like if you govern your own home state, then people are worried that you will be biased towards the people that you know and your family. Yeah. So there is a lot of moving around. So it says, and that's when we have the lines, yeah. Yeah, if there exists someone who truly knows you within the seas, then separated across the world, it is still like we are neighbors. And then yeah, finally, why should you linger at the fork of the road, wiping your eyes like a heartbroken child? Such a good way to end it, right? It's like, I mean, even though he says this, I'm sure she's also like really sad and crying. But yeah, because you know when you're separated, there's no like Zoom there. They might not see each other for the rest of their lives. There's a good chance. Yeah. So that's why I think this line is so powerful. Yeah. Wow. Such a good poem. Such a good poem. Any thoughts? Okay, why don't I look at the famous critics as well? I realize we're going through these poems really quickly because they're really short. Or maybe I was just too used to the long ones. Yeah. But these are good poems for reading deeply. Yeah. Yeah. Because if I want to do it fast, I could do like 30 in a day. But I think these are pretty good to sort of chew on more and to digest it. Yeah. So, okay, here are famous critics. This is interesting, right? It says like, he asks you not to feel sad, but that makes me feel sad. Very interesting observation. Yeah. I mean, the final description of like the just the sobbing here is very, I think it's quite powerful. Yeah. Danica says you forgot what you're going to say. And that's okay. Slowly. And then other ones. This guy doesn't really like it. It says the first 2 lines are good and the next 6 lines are not good. I mean, I think these lines are great though. The 5th and 6th lines. So I disagree with this person. Okay, that's actually about it for the critics. Yeah. Well, if you guys think of anything, if Danica, if you remember what you're gonna say, just type it in. Okay, and then Jose says, it's like, I'm not gonna cry. No, I'm not. Yeah, I wonder, right? I wonder if this guy was crying when he wrote this. Yeah. I'm kind of tempted to read this last part. Instead of saying, why should you linger? It should be, why should we linger? Because here is 儿女共沾巾. So 共 is together. So I want to say like, says, why should we linger at the fork of the road, wiping our eyes like heartbroken children? So I feel like it'd be quite powerful where he's like, so he's not just trying to console his friend, but he's trying to console himself as well. I mean, definitely there is a dimension of that, right? Like, I mean, this idea that um, even though you are separated physically, you're still emotionally so close. Is very idealistic, and I'm not sure how much he really believes that, how much, like, I'm sure he is trying to convince himself that this is what it is, but surely he is also doubtful, right? So yeah, I just really like the last four lines. I think the first four are kind of okay, but yeah. Danica says it seems more like, man, I'm right here, come talk to me. um, it's like, say your farewells, bro. Stop crying. Interesting. Oh, it's things like this is like, wow. If really thankful for things like Zoom and phones. Like it's really hard for these people in the past. Like, yeah, yeah. Okay. Uh, shall we do the last one for today? Oh, that's interesting. A political prisoner listening to a cicada. Oh, this is actually like I think this is actually a king, right? Uh, why is he a prisoner? His name is Luobin Wang. Dude, this sounds like this guy. It sounds like Robin Wang. Robin Wang. Like totally could be a modern guy. Or Wang Luobin, right? I'm not sure why. Who is this guy? Why is he a political prisoner? There's also a preface, by the way, that, well, this preface is really long. I guess I should translate it. You see, the preface is like 5 times as long as the poem itself. Uh, oh, dang. Okay, so this says that you should read the preface, so I can't skip it. Well, let's read it then. I'll read the preface first, and then I'll translate, and then maybe the biography of the guy will load. So, and I'll probably mispronounce some characters, but I'll hopefully the words will be clear. So the meaning will be clear. 于境所境，横溪是法听是也。有古回数诸焉，虽生亦可知。同因中文之古数，而听宋思在吉州昭伯之干上。每日夕照低阴，秋蝉疏影。 发生忧兮，有妾常闻，岂人心日异于瞻时？将重享悲于前听，嗟乎！生以动容，得以象贤，勿竭其身也。顶君子达人之高行，着其皮也，有先都羽化之灵姿，后时而来，顺阴阳之术，应节为变，审藏用之机。有目思开，不以道昏而昧其事；有意自博，不以俗厚而益其真。迎乔树之威风，运资天从，引高丘之堕禄，亲为人之。夫失路艰驴，遭时危末，不哀伤而自润，未摇落而先衰。闻惠谷之流声，勿平反之以奏，见螳螂之暴饮，借危机之未安，感而是失待以诛之己，孰情言勿应。哀若衰弱与之飘零，道济人之敏于生之寂寞，非谓文墨，取代悠悠云耳。Okay, I guess you guys were just like listening to me speak for like 2 minutes, not knowing what it means, but so okay, so here's the transition they have. So it's I am so imprisoned in my cell outside the western wall. It is a hall where cases are heard. There are several old trees, even though we can see they are very lively. They have a lot of vitality. This is like in the past is Yin Zhongwen, the trees that he saw. I'm not sure what the illusion here is. Okay, so he sees. Okay, so the illusion here is like, oh, when this guy in the past, he saw the tree. He said, this tree is not very lively. It's because he didn't achieve his ambition, and so I guess things just look very. He just sees everything in a very depressed way. Okay, so he sees the tree and he's like very depressed, I guess. This is so long. Jeez. Okay. And then there's another illusion here. And then listening to the cases here, this is just like another historical guy, Zhao Bo, who hears cases under another kind of tree. And every evening when the sun every dusk when the sunlight is slanting and the autumn cicadas are chirping, letting out a light, a breezy sound, then the cutting sorrow exceeds that which was heard previously. So I think this is describing himself, like when it's very beautiful, right? Sunset, and like there are cicadas, they're just chirping very like calmly, and it's just damn, you just feel like even worse than usual. Because it's so beautiful that you just feel it makes your troubles seem even more deep, I guess. Yeah. And then okay, he's speculating like, oh, this is before, oh, this is unlike how he usually reacts. So he says, is this because my emotions are different from before, or is it because the cicadas themselves are crying in a sadder way? It's like, oh, the sounds of the cicadas are able to move people, and their virtuous behavior is able to symbolize virtue. Yeah, I think cicadas are a symbol of virtue, but I can't remember why. Okay, let's just check here. Okay, that's why there are, okay, there are, I guess their incorruptibility and thriftiness can be said to uh, inherit the great virtues of a gentleman. And when it sheds its skin, it has the beautiful exterior, like it has ascended to immortal plane. What's the next part here? And then following the progression of time and the natural rhythms, then adapting to the changes of the season and carefully observing the opportunities for quiescence and activity. So that's he's describing the cicada here, like it's like perfectly in tune with the world, right, with the changes of nature. And it's kind of, if it has eyes, then it opens it wide, and it does not, because and just because the road is dark, it doesn't it is still able to see clearly. It is still able to see clearly. It has wings and is able to fly, but it's I don't get this part. If there are wings, okay, it has wings that are thin, but it does not become thicker for due to convention, no expectations, and change its essence. I mean, clearly he's talking about himself here. I'm not sure what he means in terms of the cicada. Like, is there like peer pressure from other bugs? I didn't get that. Okay. And then so singing on top of the high tree, that beautiful, the elegant sound is really like heaven sent beauty, and like drinking dew from in deep autumn is well known by those who are pure. Is that right? Huh. Okay, it's kind of strange. So now my situation is dire. I ran into some trouble and I'm imprisoned. Even if I am not sorrowful, at times I blame myself, like leaves who do not who are who have not fallen off but are already withering. Hearing the sound of the cicada, and I think of hearing the cicada, I think because he sent a letter to ask for his pardon, right? So I think my letter has already been, or a letter for pardon has already been sent. But looking at the cicada, looking at the what's the Tang? I think it's a praying mantis, right? Yeah, a mantis. about to catch the cicada, I'm also worried that my own danger has yet to be resolved. And these are very live emotions, I guess, or this scene creates emotions in me. I feel it very deeply. That's why I wrote this poem, in order to send it to people who understand me, to those who understand me. I hope that my situation can respond to the omen of the chirping cicada and pity my pity me. What's this? How do you read this? This is a pretty tough passage. I'll just use this interpretation, which is yeah, I hope my situation, yeah, can correspond to the omen of the chirping cicada, and I hope please take pity on my dire straits, just like this poor little autumn cicada. I say this to let everyone know that and that hope they can empathize with this last my last feelings of sorrow and loneliness. This is not the official essay, but it's just a way for me to express my feelings, to yeah, to express my feelings, to make myself feel better. Okay, that was a super long preface. I was not expecting that. Okay, look at some of your comments here. So the meaning of cicadas, you're Googling the meaning of it on Chinese poems. And it says it could mean eternal life or transcendent because they only eat pure things. In ancient Chinese, they are often drawn with big eyes, meaning visionary leadership. Oh, that's why you talked about the eyes here. Wow. And it says the poem seems like a guy acknowledging his mistake and why he is locked. Since he sees the cicada distant from himself, he sees himself as corrupted, maybe. I'm not sure if he sees the cicada as different from himself though, because he sees, like, when he sees the mantis about to eat the cicada, he's like, oh, maybe that's like me. So, or maybe he sees himself like the cicada because he's also pure. So that's why when the cicada is free, he feels even more sad because he's like, I'm also pure, I'm also good, but I'm trapped. Maybe. Oh, but that was super helpful when you. It's because they only eat pure things. I guess like the morning dew and things like that, right? That's really interesting. Okay, you know what? I think we will have a better sense of it once we read the poem. Uh, so, but yes, this is very, very helpful. So thanks so much. Okay, let's look at this. So I'll read here. So 西路蝉声唱，习惯客思亲，哪堪悬冰影，来对白头吟。路重飞难进，风多响易沉。无人兴高洁，谁为表于心？ While the year sings westward, I hear cicada bid me to be resolute here in my cell. Yet it needed the song of those black wings to break a white-haired prisoner's heart. His flight is heavy through the fog. His pure voice drowns in the windy world. Who knows if he be singing still? Who listens anymore to me? This last part, I disagree with the translation quite strongly. Yeah, so let's do it line by line. So yeah, okay. While the year sings westward, I hear a cicada. So this one is actually the west here. It should be the west wall. Because if you remember from the preface, he is in the west wall, or the western part of the prison. Okay. And so in the western wall, I hear the cicada sing, and okay, and bid me to be resolute here in my cell. Okay, it should be, at least the Chinese interpretation says it brings my emotions to somewhere far away. Okay. How can I endure? Geez, I guess I'm just translating everything. So the 玄彬影, I think it should be, it's not black wings, but the poet when he had black hair. So it's like his memories of when he was young, and now, well, actually, maybe it could be the cicada. Are cicadas black? Or Shren is like dark red, really dark red, nearing black. But okay, so how can I endure the shadow of the dark haired coming to sing to the white-haired man? So the white-haired person is himself, yeah. Then blue. The dew is heavy and it's hard to fly through. The wind is, there's a lot of wind, and the sound, its sound is easily sunk. No one believes in its high purity. Who will, uh, who can express for his behalf? I mean, I think the last two lines, so it's like, no one believes in the high purity. I think he's talking about himself here, right? And then who is able to express my heart? So here, at least he clearly believes in himself being pure. And who can express my heart? Okay, I feel like I'm a bit disjointed here, but yeah, I think here is like, okay, the cicada, even though it's chirping, but it's also facing some difficulties, and then he sees it just like how he is facing some difficulty. That's sort of my read of it. Yeah, I don't know. There's quite a few different interpretations there. And I mean, at least this part. So this flying, I mean, it's more clearly, it's supposed to be about the cicada, but clearly it's also referring to himself, right? Like he's facing some obstacles, and then it's hard for him to physically to progress. And then because of the wind, people are not listening to him. I mean, here the wind probably is like just people not listening to him for some reason or another. Yeah. I want to know why he's in prison though. Does he win? Does he like survive? Okay. Oh, okay, because he wrote a letter. He was just promoted actually. Apparently, the story he just promoted, and then he wrote a letter to the empress to about something. Like the empress who was ruling, he was like, okay, this is my opinion on something, and I think people were just said like somehow people were not happy, and then he was sent to jail under a charge of corruption. Uh, okay, I'm not sure what this means though. Let me just Google. Oh, I think this is so he was charged for offending the emperor, or he offended the empress, and that's why he was yeah, just sent to jail. And that's why he does see himself as the purest cicada. And yeah, okay, I guess there's not much more to say. He's like, I'm like the purest cicada, but whereas the cicada's outside, then I am, trapped in prison. Okay. So no one sees, Danica says, no one sees the noble act he performed. No one sees what he did as a noble symbol. Is this guy saying he's innocent? Yeah, I think he does think of himself as innocent. It's just, yeah, or at least Wikipedia thinks he's innocent as well. Yeah, but yeah, especially the last line. Again, this is a really terrible translation, at least for this line, where it says, "No one believes in its high purity," right? Or no one believes in my high purity. So he very clearly thinks he is innocent. Yeah. So so this is a story of like unfair imprisonment. Yeah. And maybe I'll just look at some famous critics. I think that's if there are any other opinions. This is the last two lines. He sort of just tells you what he thinks. He's like, I'm innocent, bro. Please believe me. Yeah. So that's and then whereas the previous lines are more like hidden, right? He's like, oh, using the cicada as a metaphor here. Okay, that's actually about it. Nothing else that's very useful from the famous critics. I think in that case, do you have any more thoughts? If not, we can just call it a day for this. The preface for this was so long. Like, yeah, I thought I would have been done like 30 minutes earlier, but the preface is so long. Huh. I think it's a pretty good poem. I don't know. I feel like the last part was a bit too heavy-handed. Like he was too like he just told you what it was, right? Which I didn't really like. And that I think the cicada metaphor was okay. But also he was so long-winded in this preface that it's almost like I think he could have been more concise. So I don't like this poem that much. Like, I mean, I know this is like 40 characters, right? But there are other poets who have done so much more with just 40 characters. Not this one, this one. Yeah, so I think, yeah, not my favorite poem for sure, but pretty interesting. Yeah, I said the poet Luo went to jail and got exiled. So I think this poem is about him. Yeah, I think so too. I'm pretty sure he's writing about himself here. So Luo Bin Wang. Are you looking at him? Right, this guy. Right. Really? Oh, so he wrote this thing. Where was he in jail? And why is he bald? Is he a monk? Huh. I think this is when he was imprisoned there. 684. When was this written? not much info about that, but okay. Oh, okay, this is wrote in 678. Here, all right, it was written right here. It was dismissed and imprisoned for criticizing Wu Zetian, but was released the following year. Right, okay. Huh. This says prefix was a work in itself. Yeah, right. Actually, the prefix was quite well written, I have to say. I quite liked it. Yeah, it was just like, it's just so long. I was quite shocked. But yeah, I mean, it's not a bad piece, the preface. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I never actually heard of this guy. But he seems pretty cool. I think in these poems, we're meeting a lot of new poets. Maybe this form was, because these are like earlier poets, right? Compared to the ones we've been reading. So maybe this form has been around longer, which is more popular. And so I think it'll be interesting. We'll be able to see quite a lot of different authors in this part. Yeah. Yeah, we'll be doing this for two months, so should be fun. But yeah. Okay, if there's nothing else, maybe I'll just call it a day. But I'm kind of pretty excited to read from next week onwards. Like, and I think especially for those of you who are learning Chinese, since these poems are shorter, we'll have a lot more opportunity to really look at the Chinese text. So I think it'll be fun. And yeah, quite a nice change of pace from the longer poems that we've been doing. So should be an interesting experience. And yeah, so thanks so much for coming and for all your comments. Like as always, it's really nice to hear your opinions. So I hope I'll see you all next week. Okay. All right. Bye bye.